Imagine this. You are pitter-pattering through an enchanted forest. The trees can talk, the mushrooms have little butts, and you stumble across this quaint little shop. And when you go inside, it's full of all these whimsical little treasures, and the shopkeeper, that's me, has a story to tell behind each and every one of them. That is the magic essence of what I'm trying to create with the world of Hexium. Hello, weary travelers. If you don't know me already, my name is Janie. I'm an artist and the shopkeeper of a magical little handmade store called the World of Hexium. I sell fun little handmade items like clay figures, pins, stickers, prints, but even more importantly, I love being a storyteller. To put it plainly, I wanted to make this video to one, share a bit about Hexium with you guys, but more importantly, give some insights into how making a fantasy world and world building can be the best thing to do for your art practice. Before we can get into that, you might be wondering what even is a Hexium, and that is what I'm here to explain. So, as you are aware, Hexium is a fantasy world, and like all good fantasy worlds, we should start with a map. Seriously though, I love maps so much. Like, you know that meme that's like, oh, if I'm ever rich, I won't tell anyone, but there will be signs. My sign is that I'm gonna have a gigantic map room in my house, like the one in the Vatican. So yeah, this is Hexium. It is a world full of witches, wonder, and other magic folk alike, and if you are a fan of fantasy and folklore, then this is the world for you. Hexium is divided into 4 fictional nations. Number 1 is Outremer. It is a series of tropical islands, and they are renowned for their advancements in magical research. They really value knowledge here, and they incorporate magic into their society more than any of the other nations. It was kind of inspired by like the golden age of Greek philosophers. Number 2 is Venefica, and it's definitely the most diverse of the 3 when it comes to both terrain and culture. It ranges from swamplands in the north to the fungal jungle in the west and a haunted desert in the south. Explorers often find themselves here the most because it is such a free-spirited society and there's just so much to see here. Number 3, and this is my personal favorite, Diorsum. It is the southernmost continent known for its lawlessness and harsh terrains. They've got places like hot springs, jagged mountain peaks, and frigid tundras. The eastern side is the mountainous part, and it's home to the oldest city in Hexium called Eugosis. It's a very civil society, but the rest of it is very Wild West, outlaws running around and just chaos. But yeah, it's definitely the one I've developed the most because this is where my one comic has taken place. So my last one is Mount Igmasi, and I'm gonna be completely honest, this is my least developed nation. So yeah, I won't share too much about this because I think a lot of it will change, but it is home to generations of lava witches and the lava tribe, and they are in charge of watching after Mount Igmasi to make sure that it doesn't erupt, because if it did, it would destroy much of Hexium. So yeah, that is a breakdown of all the regions of Hexium, and it was my starting point when I was making the world, and because I did all that, it allowed me to think of so many fun characters and stories that have been vital in my art. So yeah, I think a map is a really amazing place to start if you're building a fantasy world, and the key is to just not take it too seriously at the beginning. I actually ended up redesigning my map from the original. I'll show you the before and after now. The reason I recommend starting with a map is because when you have all of these locations, it really helps with idea generation later on. You look at the places and you start to think, what kind of characters would live here? What kind of events would happen here? And it's just helped me come up with ideas when I've been stuck so much. I kept my continents the same, but my map changed a lot aesthetically, and I changed the name and places a lot. It's okay if your world changes or evolves as it grows. That's supposed to happen. If you guys would like to just see a full video on fantasy maps and how I made mine, I would be so overjoyed to do that. Yeah, like I said, I'm really passionate about it, so just let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. So yeah, I made my map and then I took my practice forward, and I knew from there I wanted to just kind of find a way to work in all of my interests, which include witches, fantasy, folklore, and other things of the sort. And I really recommend that if you're building a fictional world, is to just make it about something you're genuinely interested in, because it takes a lot of research, and if you're researching something you enjoy, then it doesn't feel like work. So now that you've been introduced to Hexium as a whole, please allow me to introduce you to the little man that ties it all together, which is Hilly Le Freak. He is my mascot and just kind of like the symbol of all things Hexium. So a couple years ago, I was on vacation in a little rural village in France, and I stumbled across the store that sold these really interesting little dolls, and I had no idea how much he would inspire me, but I knew that I had to buy it. Yeah, he's actually a little bit battered now because he's definitely a collectible, and I used to just take him around with me on adventures. He's seen a lot. That little creature is called a Corrigan, and they are known in Brittany folklore for being this mischievous little elvish creature that lives in the woods and causes mayhem for humans. And I've actually tried to do more extensive research on them, but there's just not that much about them. There's actually like a siren-ish version of a Corrigan that's like a seductress. And yeah, I don't know what that's about, so if you do, please let me know. Anyway, I became quite enamored with these creatures, and I ended up making my own little Corrigan character named Hillyguy le Freak. He's been around before. I actually created Hexium, and now he's become this figurehead of the world. And you know, his main thing as a character is that he is just the most menacing menace to ever roam the land. And yeah, more importantly, and this is the point I've been trying to get to, is that he is the common denominator in my stories. He's a traveler that roams the land and meets all the characters and sees all the cool places, and then he just kind of serves as this glue that holds it all together. So if you're building a fantasy world, and as well as making it kind of your brand, then I really recommend having a character like this, because it helps you from feeling too limited when you know that you have a way to go and connect things later on, even if they don't feel like they'll connect just yet. Naturally, I have made a lot of Hillyguy based work. These are my two pins. I've made both a normal rendition and a sleepy rendition, and also plenty of prints because, you know, he's my boy. He's my favorite thing to draw. This is my business card. These are my sticker labels. I wear him on my jacket. I think about him constantly. So yeah, thank you for letting me express my pure love and adoration of Corrigans. And yeah, Hillyguy may look cute, but do not be fooled. He is evil. As you can tell, this character means a lot to me, and I think his evolution was a good one to share. Corrigans were just a fixation that I was really passionate about, and now I make art and sell art of them in my shop, and that is so unbelievably cool. I used to feel really stuck between stories and my shop, but I've realized that they can go hand in hand. And when I say that, I mean, when I used to explore Hexium, it was solely in the form of writing and making comics. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can make tangible works, and it actually helps bring you closer to the world when you can hold something from it. So yeah, I really hope that inspires some of you as well. Storytelling is so important. I'm yearning for original stories, especially in the world of AI, and don't be afraid to just put your work out there. I want to read your stories, other people want to read your stories. Sometimes it just takes time finding the right audience. And if any of you are world builders out there, you are legally required to tell me so that I can go look at your work. Okay, so I thought I'd have one last section today where I talk about idea generation. Like I said with Hillyguy, he came to me on a lovely vacation to France, but traveling is not an attainable solution every time you have a little bit of art block. So I thought I'd give you a much more real breakdown of my creative process, and I'm gonna use my lovely little Choco Ranchula as an example. So this guy is for sale as a clay figure in my shop, but he has a story, and both a story in the real world and in Hexium. So the Choco Ranchula came to me when I was trying to think of flora and fauna that would live in the fictional region of Venefica. And if you remember from earlier, that is the big continent that has a lot of diverse landscapes and is full of adventurers. So on my portfolio website, I break down Hexium into sections, one of them being places. And you can click on the 4 continents, and then in each continent it'll kind of show you a bit of the culture, like the key places, the animals that live there, and the characters. So when I was thinking about creatures that lived in Venefica, I knew there was a big rainforest called the Fungal Jungle, so I started there. I just started researching real animals that live in the rainforests of Earth. And then when I decide on an animal that I want to draw, I spend a lot of time thinking of how I could put a magical twist on them, and that's the most time-consuming part. It's just kind of seeing what works and what doesn't. But when I made the Choco Ranchula, I actually had in mind that I was going to make a chocolate witch character, and that the Choco Ranchula was going to be her like familiar pet. However, that has not happened yet, and that needs to change because I've been wanting to make a chocolate witch since like the beginning. So the next part of my process is kind of optional. Some people like to go more in depth than others. I personally enjoy world building, so I like to go in depth. So I'll think about kind of what purpose the creature serves in the world and just do sketches or funny little scenarios and just kind of think about how it sits there rather than it just existing. So yeah, these are some of my concept sketches from the Chocorantula, and overall I just think it makes the world feel more alive and real. It was just a concept that I created 2 years ago, but now you can buy your very own tangible little Chocorantula as a pet from my shop. And this was definitely one of my favorites because I like that he's actually life-size to what he would be if he was real. Yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here because I don't want to overcomplicate this video, but I really didn't even scratch the surface of some of the things in Hexium. Like, the whole world revolves around my witch characters and I didn't even explain them, but I don't know, there's so much about them, maybe that'll just be the next video. A whole video about witches. If you're a returning visitor, then you would know that I've mainly just done studio vlogs, and I've been really struggling to find a way to connect storytelling to my work. I absolutely adore all of my cozy content creators out there, but I kind of realized that that formula just was not working for me in particular. World building has always been my strength, and it's what makes art so fun for me, and I feel like that is what I have the most knowledge on and can give the most useful advice on. I definitely want to work on making my videos more immersive, you know, like I want you to feel like you're stepping inside of a fantasy world and you're just having a chat with me as a shopkeeper. Like, we'll work on that. The production needs some work. So yeah, please let me know all your thoughts below. If there's anything specific you'd like me to cover, just let me know and I'd be happy to do so. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.